Hey everybody, Marcos Vegas here on the red carpet for this Mayweather versus Pacquiao press conference, being joined by the one and only Teddy Atlas. Teddy, this is really a dream come true for a lot of fight fans. You surprised that we're here right now? Can you believe this is actually happening?
Yeah, you know, I'm not being a Monday morning quarterback. I try not to do that. And last couple months, I said this fight was going to be made. And the only reason I did was their numbers have been down in the pay-per-view. You know, they had to do something that would bring up and invigorate those numbers. And when I didn't hear a guy named Miguel Cotto mentioned with Floyd, I knew this fight could be made because that was his other option. Floyd could fight Cotto May 2nd, and because of the great Latino fan base with the great Latino boxing fans out there, that could have brought the numbers pretty good. Not to this point, but good enough to go for. When that fight wasn't happening and I didn't hear that name, I knew that this fight would probably happen.
Did you scream a little bit inside?
No. Listen, I don't put this on my, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be a BS artist like some people. I'm not putting this on my, I don't know that I'm putting this on my top 10 most anticipated fights. Frazier Ali, the first one, the first fight of the century, pretty big. And
Lewis Schmeling too?
I mean, yeah, and with the whole world on his shoulders. Yeah.
Literally the whole world.
Yeah. Pretty great man, that Joe Louis. and then when you look at, you know, Tommy Hearns and Leonard, the first one, and you look at Duran and Leonard, the first one, those were pretty big fights. Will this be the biggest moneymaker? Probably, you know, because the timing was perfect. You know, you have social media to the level that you have it now to bring this kind of audience out and this, you know, and bring this kind of attention to the fight. It's probably going to be the biggest moneymaker. And also, the timing was right because the fans were lost. They were out in the desert walking around mindlessly, and they're looking for an oasis. And they're just, you know, they're thirst and they're dying in their mind. And all of a sudden they look up and they see what they think is an oasis. And they run to it. You'd run to an oasis, wouldn't you?
Of course, you're thirsty.
Of course you're thirsty. You run to an oasis. So everyone's running to this oasis.
So let me ask you this. It's an oasis.
I hope it's an oasis. I hope it's not a mirage. They have those things in
Okay,
it.
I was going to ask you, is this going to live up to what everybody's anticipating?
I'm not sure it will, because if you really honestly break it down, Floyd's a defensive specialist. He doesn't make the greatest fights. He makes big money, but he doesn't always make the biggest, you know, the greatest fights. And Pacquiao used to make them, but he's a different guy. He's more of a boxer now than a seek and destroy guy that he was 6 years ago. And he's not as big. He's not, you know, he's not as powerful as he was 6 years ago. I don't know why. You'd have to figure that out. But, you know, they're two different guys now. But so I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if the fans are going to wind up getting water or sand in their mouth. I'm not sure. I hope it's water. I hope it's not sand in their mouth, because this fight is helping the business right now. Everyone asks me that question. It's making the business more relevant right now. But if it doesn't turn out to be a good fight, it hurts the business, because then people will be awful upset that they paid $100 or close to $100 on pay-per-view to see it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just going to say that. People would be like, oh, man, I spent $100 for this. But on a last note, do you feel Manny gives Floyd a bigger run for his money than the last guys that have gone up against him?
Yes, that's an easy question to answer for me, because three reasons. One, because he's got quick hands and he can match Floyd's hand speed or be very comparable to it, if not match it. And he puts punches in volume. You know, punches in parcels.
And I really think the key to this fight is volume, because Floyd doesn't throw a lot, Manny throws a lot, and that could kind of sway the judges like, oh, Manny's coming forward, he's doing all this activity.
The perception, you know, talking about mirages, the perception of Floyd is really a misperception, that he's a combination puncher. He's really 1-2 punches at a time. He's a very careful guy, you know, very conservative, doesn't take a lot of chances. So, as I said, three things that gives Manny a good chance. One is his hand speed. Two is he puts punches together in volume. And there's one other thing that I guarantee you nobody else is thinking about.
What's that?
Everyone talks about the hand speed, and Canelo got whitewashed, you know, he was too slow. But Canelo's hand speed wasn't that way off. His foot speed was. You have to have quick feet to beat Floyd, to get to him, to match him. And Pacquiao has quick feet. So he's got a good chance.
And he still has those movements and his footwork as well. Teddy, thank you very much. Great talking with you. Here with Teddy Atlas. Marcos Villegas here in Los Angeles for this Mayweather versus Pacquiao press conference.